Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome from Pune River Revival. Pune River Revival, which we shortly call as PRR, is an organization association of number of organizations around 50 plus organizations and individuals, experts who work for the betterment of the rivers. Basically, the motto of PRR is to have clean, free flowing natural rivers, the free flow and clean rivers. Uh, in Pune, we have this project Pune Riverfront Development, which is actually which is called as which is more of a destruction than development. So we are highlighting the shortcomings, the issues regarding the riverfront development project, and also parallelly we are suggesting what should be the appropriate good alternative where the river and the river ecosystems, the riparian zones, can be kept intact, and still we can have good natural free flowing rivers. So in these organizations, we are organizing different events where we are creating the awareness for the river. We had the Rights of River campaign in January, where again lots of issues in and around the rivers were discussed, and attempts were made to get it to the public. So this webinar series, the eighth in today's webinar is the eighth in the series, where again we are having the experts have short talks on the river and then the interaction related to that. Without taking much time, today we have Ketaki Ghate from oikos, and she will be talking about the restoration around the rivers, the catchment areas of the rivers. Over to you, Ketaki.
Yeah, thanks, Santosh. So I'll just share the screen and I think we'll talk with respect to the presentation. So last Wednesdays, we've talked generally about what can be done in river catchments. And this time, I think I'm just bringing you four case studies or four stories of conservation and restoration from our projects only. So we have worked on all these four projects maybe in past 22 years. So the first project I'm going to portray is Shilim. Shilim is a village in Pune catchment, and again, all four are obviously privately owned lands on which we tried to do conservation and restoration. Then second one is Lavasa township. Third one is Rahal private sanctuary that we are shaping in Panchet catchment. And fourth one is Pune. There is a farmhouse, so I'm just calling it as a Pune farmhouse on 8 acres within Pune catchment itself. So just to actually see that what all things can be done from large scale lands to maybe small scale land and what could be the results. So yeah, so this is the first case study is Shillim, and this is where Shillim is. Shillim is in Pune catchment, as you see, 50 kilometers from Pune. And this is a little zoomed in view of Shillim area, Shillim village. So this is how the Western Ghats crest line goes, north to south. And this is exactly the water divide in between the coastal plains and the Deccan Plateau. And this is a high rainfall area that I have highlighted. And the red area is where Shilim Little Watershed is, and it is connected to main crest line of Western Ghats through this corridor. So we call corridor when two patches get connected. So that's how it becomes very crucial from the point of view of Shilim. So just talking about some kind of regional context, I think everyone here would know importance of Western Ghats, that is Sahyadri. And these are just few numbers. It is just one of the globally recognized biodiversity hotspot. And looking at the rainfall and the elevation, it's a absolutely fragile ecosystem, a very crucial watershed from the point of view of Indian subcontinent. And just on 5% of India's landmass, we have almost 30% of all plants and animal species found in our country. So that's how it becomes very important. And whenever we work in Western Ghats, we always keep this back of our minds that the kind of development that we wish to shape, it should be in sync with the existing biodiversity and the natural processes and the ecosystem. Then, be it any project, we definitely study people and culture over there. So similarly, we studied maybe people in definitely generally in Sahyadri and of course in Shilim as well. So over there, if you see most of the means very few communities are tribal. Most of the communities are non-tribal rural communities like Kundbis and Maratha. And now like urban landowners, completely new set of people now have started, buying the land in maybe last few decades in Western Ghats. So similarly, Shilim catchment also has some kind of urban ownership. So yeah, so this is just to give you a glimpse of the study that we did. So setting the context for conservation, if you look at the situation outside the project land, so this Shilim area, the land where we worked, it is owned by Writer Company. They bought this land back in 2000. That time, definitely the situation was like this. Even today, much of the Sahyadri faces this kind of stresses, like you see on this slide, is basically fire, grazing, cutting, and also modern development. So all these four stresses are there all over Sahyadri, and back in 2000, it was surely was there. So it became very important that how you shape the goal for conservation and restoration on this private land, which is almost 2,000 acres. So looking at the history of this project land, prior to the acquisition of this land by this writer groups, it was almost the entire project land was under shifting cultivation. So shifting cultivation is what basically, as you see in this particular photograph, local people would cut the entire forest slope and cultivate three hill millets for 3 consecutive years. And by the end of the third year, this is how it becomes. So obviously, you lose forests to a certain extent to shifting cultivation. And but the beauty of shifting cultivation is there is a good scope to restore that as well. Means the locals, they use nature subsidy to grow the crops. Means if you leave it fallow for a few years, it regenerates the nutrients in the same soil. So obviously, if you see the kind of landscape where people like are doing shifting cultivation, it would have a mosaic of landscape. So the entire landscape may not be completely degraded, but you would have some patches like this, like you see in this particular photograph. The neighboring plot is maybe quite better than this particular plot. So you would have various kinds of vegetation. So obviously, but degradation was quite evident that time. But after protection by writers group, what we could see within just 20 years now, lush semi-evergreen forests are restored, though it's not even. So we'll see that we also assess what kind of vegetation is right now persisting on that particular project land. But this is very important, this particular pie chart that you look at. So here in this almost 2,000 or surely 1,000 acres, infrastructure is over only 3%. And the rest 97% is completely left to nature. And that's how we see the same valley, which was completely degraded. Now we see some kind of forest over there. So simple conservation effort that were taken by this writer group is they just had retreat, some kind of resort on 40 acres, and rest almost 1,200 acres were completely protected, and they did native plantations over that. And also the wonderful thing that they did is they involved local people as forest guard. So the people who were owning that land before writers, so they bought the land from the forest, these local people, and they employed them. They involved them as forest guard just to safeguard the same kind of forest land. Already they were cultivating it. So now they're protecting it. And so we also worked with this entire team, wonderful team. They know each and every corner of this watershed and are working definitely, very that way, what you can say, lovingly, because it's their area. So they like and they know each and everything. And the moment we try and appreciate their area, I think they like it. Then, so what was the change? Is change in land use from shifting cultivation to protected area, and majority of the area is now under dwarf canopy vegetation. So these are various things, we suggested them, even they themselves have been doing on their own as writer group. So we got involved recently, means as compared to this entire history, we got involved in this around 2014. And these are the kind of things that we suggested. So protection, ban on cutting forest was there. Then we suggested some kind of restoration work to be done on ground. propagation of natives, plantation natives, monitoring, documentation of biodiversity, involvement of definitely multidisciplinary team. Then they themselves are also doing organic farming, trying to do some kind of outreach programs, for various target groups like school children, local people, even urban artists, various things that they are trying to do. And now the same case study, we are also trying to take it to the catchment level. So that effort is also going on. So this few slides will be just telling you the story of this entire conservation that is being done in this 1,000 to 2,000 acres. So this particular catchment, so the land is divided in two catchments. So this one little catchment is around 1,000 acres. So over here, so if you could see, so we use GIS and we mark all erosional points and tell these forest guards where we can lay bunds, how we can do soil and moisture conservation, Then habitat diversity, definitely we tried to boost. Needless to say that we planted all native plants here, and we identify various plantation pockets for various themes. Like certain areas are there, we planted food plants for birds, or say certain areas we prefer plants for shakru, that is Malabar giant squirrel. Food plants and larval host plants for butterflies were planted. Gap filling for with appropriate species were done, maybe in the retreat area. Special species from Sahyadri means because now the forests are, quite good. If you look at the semi-evergreen canopy over there, you definitely can introduce special species. That's what we thought, and we are doing that. Shade-giving species, and so obviously this plant palette is quite elaborate. Removal of invasives surely is one of the important tasks that we have been doing in that catchment, like this Ranmari, Cosmos, and Subabu. And of course, avoid possible threats like fire. So all these things means precisely this 6 to 7 heads are there for restoration that we've been trying to do over there. And in last, whatever, 5-10 years, we're closely involved in this project. And this is just to give you the glimpse of the work that we're trying to do. There are 2 big ponds, but we actually don't do too many ponds. Means wherever is necessary and the natural terrain is allowing, over there we try to do this pond, and definitely hundreds of bunds and almost 800 gully plugs were done. And this kind of smaller tools are good enough to do soil and moisture conservation. That's what we thought, and that's what we experienced as well. Then along with that, we also tried to do monitoring and capacity building for these locals. And one of those, like, say, for example, snake awareness sessions were conducted for them, or some kind of interactive sessions we used to conduct with them just to understand the history of the area, and so that we can understand the earlier ecology and compare it to the current one. Some such thing like temperatures across habitats were recorded, just to understand that how forests are ultimately helping in reducing the temperature and increasing the humidity. So it's very evident from this temperatures and humidity. You yourself can check this. Then if you look at the biodiversity account for the project land, there are almost around 700 species in this catchment. Basically the land owned by this writers or even Shillim Institute. If you see here, the logo of Shillim Institute is there. So writers group, they also have an NGO through which they are trying to now, do some kind of extension activities for local people and general for ecology. So yeah, so many threatened species, endemic species are also there. Many common species, of course, are there. Then this is about fauna. So many, and again, Schedule 1, Schedule 2 animals are there. Birds are there, mammals, butterflies, everything. So because the moment you have 1,000 acres completely protected, it is like teeming with wildlife. You walk every meter and you see some kind of life form, which is maybe unique. Then we studied Malabar giant squirrel to a great extent. We could see that there are total number of nest clusters in the project line are 36. And so probably looking at the entire statistics, we could say that in this 1,000 acres, definitely there are 6 to 7 individuals. Yeah, looking at so there is means if you know the nest clusters, you can able to just guess the total number of these animals. Then obviously just because there is protection, the diversity of habitats and micro habitats is increasing every year. Like this is just to give you a glimpse of it. There are old growth species in that 1000 acres. There are lovely grassland patches amidst dense canopy, full with like or teeming with all insects and butterflies. Wonderful in-stream and riparian habitat is protected. And over there, uh, we can see particular species, like say, for example, this stream ruby that you see, which is endemic to Western Ghats. It's seen at certain points in this particular area. You know, and of course, all usual insects surely are there, like water beetle and water striders. But just this protection is ultimately conserving this special species. Then there is one point they call is Ketki. So Ketki is basically caved up. So pandanus, as you see in this photograph, wonderful cluster of pandanus is there. And over there, we would always spot some special birds like paradise flycatchers or other flycatchers. And there is also Lina. So this is just to maybe let you understand that the moment you protect land at a larger scale, all these micro habitats and habitats get protected. These boulders are full with n number of herbs and insects and even slugs. Yeah, bryophytes, like you see on this particular moss. If you visit, actually, this is there in many parts of Western Ghats. If you see how sacred grows, they would have these boulders full with n number of cryptogams, that is, non-flowering plants. So they have their own role. Microhabitats like this phytotelma, one little hole in the tree, and you would see very special diatoms or n number of little creatures over there. Woody debris is supporting, again, a great diversity of beetles. Then there is a great diversity of orchids as well. Then nests and microhabitats, basically when it comes to termites and anthills, they are called as architects of the forest because they help in decomposition of wood and basically biomass and dead organic matter. So that's how they are also important. So there are like n number of microhabitats. I can just keep on talking about all of this. So just to look at this landscape through the lens of ecology, this is how there are almost 9 different land classes we could identify, right from the tall canopy to dwarf canopy to scrub to the infrastructure and road and everything. So this is how that entire catchment looks like if you stand at a vantage point. So this photograph we've taken from one area that they call it a Shillim peak. So from there you see the entire valley, and you can see the infrastructure is just there in one little valley corner. So otherwise, the rest of the area is completely protected. So this is tall canopy. Here you can see the green color restricted to very little area, maybe just 30 acres. And the kind of species, though over here, we have like given the dominance. So dominants are very common species, but within this sacred grove like area, we see many special species as well. So the kind of fauna which is associated with this tall canopy, again, special black eagle, which is a scheduled one bird, it's seen here. Many rare species are there. So all other kinds of forests are quite similar to this, but just little variation in composition of the species. But scrub is completely different, dominated with shrubs and grasses. And obviously the faunal diversity is also completely different. As you see, larks and pipits are dominant here. And then the rocky outcrop, which is a special ecosystem here. You see maybe very few tiny patches are there, but full with again endemic grasses and herbs. Again, so of course, when it comes to fauna, there is a great overlap in between various kinds of forests, but this is how the entire area looks like. Various vegetation classes are there, but mostly you can see there is a canopy forest which is restored. So Shillim Institute also trying to do certain extension activities. We did some carbon sequestration calculation for them, and the total area is, sequestering more than 150,000 tons of carbon, and it is almost equals to almost more than 1,000 hours of a jet airplane. So this is just to relate that how do you look at this particular number? So huge means if you look at the carbon stock in this 1,000 acres is definitely quite significant. So as I was talking about now, the Shillim Institute also trying to extend their activities to fauna catchment. So this is a team of people that they're trying to involve, and so we recently did a study of Pavana catchment. I think Manasi presented this study, so I'll not talk about this, about the Pavana catchment. But these are various activities. One mind map that I tried to do in one of the workshops. So over in that, obviously, what we are ultimately saying, and on this particular platform of PRR, that what all things we can shape in river catchments so that it is holistic, it is conserving river ecosystem, conserving forest, conserving biodiversity, and at the same time helping locals to certain extent. So if you look at this various circles, so sustainable livelihoods, soil moisture conservation, sensible modern development, all these are our objectives, how we can shape it at a catchment level. That's what we're trying to do. We conduct Nisargashala, they call it a green squad, in Shillim area as well. And yeah, so the same future plan is nothing but to continue this momentum of forest restoration, sustain it in long term, enhance biodiversity, and obviously aspire to have even superior species like this great pied hornbill. So that's the story of Shillim, uh, Shillim Institute's land, that way I should call it as, in Shillim village. Then the next story is about Lavasa. So if you see Lavasa, so I think let me just finish and then let's have questions. Santosh, what do you think? Or should we just?
Yeah, we can have questions afterwards once you finish with the presentation.
Okay.
You have around another 5 to 10 minutes. Will be okay?
Sure. Yeah. I'm okay.
Yeah.
So Lavasa is there. Maybe many of you would know that it is there in Varasgaon catchment. As you see, this green area is Varasgaon catchment, and this is where Lavasa is, right in the middle. And so in Lavasa, this is how the watershed look like. So there are like 4 major streams, and now they have this one little dam built here within the Lavasa. And you see most of the development is there in the valley. So, so let's look at the story. So when we went there for the first time in 2002, again, just like Pavana catchment or Shilim catchment, here also shifting cultivation was very dominant, and this is how the valley was looking like, mostly degraded. What means the major area was under scrub or shrubbery or grasslands, and only few patches were having canopy forest. Like you see, I'm not sure if you are able to see this, but these 2 little green patches that you see was a sacred grove. It's still there. So this was the only like good green tall canopy patch back there, and the rest of the area was quite barren. So when they bought this, means Lavasa owners, they bought it, they were not really sure whether to shape it like a hill station or township. So that time we were just involved to do biodiversity survey and suggest them some kind of restoration strategy, ultimately to restore this degradation and restore the forest. So that time again the same story, because it's the Western Ghats, but it is just few valleys down south than Pauna. So maybe species composition is little different than Pauna, but more or less overlap was there. So shifting cultivation patches, as you see in this photograph, then the regenerating areas where you could see shrubbery, trees, mixed climbers. Then certain areas like the sacred grove, where only like good dense canopy was there, but otherwise most of the area was degraded. And then we used to call this as ecologically sensitive sites. So like you see one particular stream which was like, as you see, maybe this is a seasonal stream, and few rare special orchids were there in the maybe along the whatever riparian zone was there, it was having this kind of orchids. Then I clearly remember this tree, which was like a huge old growth tree of peeper, that is Ficus amplissima in the sacred grove, and it was having almost 25 beehives. So this was also one of the ecological sensitive sites for us. Then this umber tree, Ficus racemosa. So all the time water would ooze out from this particular tree, thanks to geology and of course the tree, both the combination was there was a live spring here. So what we did is mapping of this entire vegetation and mapping of this ecologically sensitive site and suggest some kind of strategy for restoration and biodiversity conservation. But when the development was taking place that time, as you see, the same slope got completely cut, and it was quite a obviously scary scene to see whatever existing little vegetation was there of shrubs, of scrub was getting degraded or it was getting lost to the some such kind of urban development. And you can see these are the photographs of the same year, maybe 2003 and 4. So many JCBs would work there, and whatever existing vegetation was there, they would just dump everything to the valley side. And this is how you see the story. So we were super scary, and we never felt that time that this would ever would get restored. So we then use various techniques to restore this. So one of the thing again was the same thing, like you protect the streams, have bunds. So there are almost 90 big and small streams in Lavasa, that is Daswe, that village. So over there, we did this kind of stone bunding with the help of villagers on all the streams, gully plugs and bunds, some maybe ponds, and also maybe this kind of enclosure we did at few places, as you see. So just to see what is happening. So if you protect one little area completely, then you understand that if it is completely protected and the surrounding is not protected. So you get to understand how grasses and herbs communities change. So just to study that, we did this. We conducted different programs with locals as well, like say forest food competition. That time we conducted with local women. Then we also used to give certain inputs to shape development in an ecological way. So of which one of the activity was transplantation of certain species, and not that, so all the species got transplanted all along the lake edge. So whatever lake is there in Lavasa, so all along that few species got transplanted. And we actually that time we had gotten, I think, good results. Almost 80% to 90% species survive. And in this particular photograph, these British people that you see are HOKs, no, Americans, sorry. So these are master planners from America, and they were like designing the entire township. So we used to take them to the various villages, just expose them to the biodiversity and also the local people and the culture, so that at least they can pull some threads from the local culture in the new development. So obviously that didn't happen to our satisfaction, but we tried our best to do that. Then certain things definitely they implemented, like we had suggested how the maybe parks can be developed, how those can be little ecologically friendly. Instead of maybe pouring concrete everywhere, we can definitely go for some kind of biodegradable materials. Then we I think it must have been like first of its kind native plants nursery, as far as I know, in last 20. So yes, over there we could do almost lakhs of native plants were cultivated in Daswe, and we used to make simple uh, plant palettes or plant information board, because that time the native was concept was very new 20 years back, 23 years back. And these are certain inputs that we had given. So when, if at all they're building dam, we suggested fish ladders to them. So certain things they did it, certain things they didn't do, obviously. And this is the result. So so now this is the current condition. We were there just last month, and this is how it is. Means you definitely see this maybe eyesore buildings in front, but in between that, you see the forest is restored. And thanks to all those activities that we did along with the locals, of course, thanks to them, we to just suggested the concept. So we used to make seed balls and, spread grass bunches, म्हणजे गवताच्या पेंढ्या करून पसरणे उतारांवर, भरपूर बिया टाकणे, of course plantation. So through all of this, because they are not able to do any kind of construction on the slopes, so slopes are pretty restored. So if you see in this particular photograph, you can see the again the same dwarf canopy forest is seen. It would take like many years to go back to tall canopy forest. So this is again the two photographs are back in 2000, taken back in 2003 or 4. So if you see this particular spur was completely open that time, but there was no urban development at all. But this is last month's photograph. If you see, the photograph is bad quality because that time there was a haze, good haze was there. खूप ढग होते तेव्हा. पण तरी सुद्धा थोडं कळू शकेल की you can see the forests are restored in between. So whatever slope which was open, now you see forest. But again, the urban sprawl is there, which was completely absent that time. Then this particular spur where there is there is no urban development, but forests are restored. So which is there in the center of the Lavasa. So this is just to show you that what single ownership can do to the forest, So if at all, and earlier it was a multiple ownership, right? So each and every patch that you see here, which is burnt or which is being cultivated by locals, now owned singly by Lavasa. So you can see this entire spur, definitely more than 500 acres or so. It's completely green now with forest and good biodiversity. But if you look at down in the valley, it's quite an eyesore. So yeah, so this is just to show you the current condition. Yeah. So again, so these two are little large scale projects that we discussed, Shilim and Lavasa, that what you can do if single ownership is there, and if you protect the forest, you definitely can restore biodiversity, at the same time stop soil erosion, and definitely, because this is the catchment of our rivers, so this kind of projects definitely can be shaped. So if at all, you can also shape urban development in a certain way, this project could have been much better, So, but because now it is, most of it is like concrete and there hardly any vernacular architecture or any alternative architecture is practiced that time. If at all it can be combined with alternative architecture, I think such kind of projects are definitely like a need of the hour, because such projects are increasing in Western Ghats or catchments of a river. And the next project is maybe little smaller scale, which is over 60 acres. This is a Rahal, which is a private sanctuary that we are trying to shape in Panchet catchment. This is in the Shirkoli village area. And this is where the red patch is, it's where the Rahal is. And these are, again, various vegetation or the land classes that you see here. We try to document all floral diversity, faunal diversity, the same story, just like other two projects. So again, quite similar work here also we could do, is maybe having some kind of fire line, hedges, and here our main agenda is also to conserve endemic and endangered species within the 60 acres. So we are able to maybe even conserve some such kind of plants like this Abichulon ranadai, which is one of the endangered plants as per IUCN Red List, you know. So some such kind of conservation work is being done at Rahal along with work on catchment area. So we are also doing certain things for villagers. So you can see here, so we try to do or say revive 20 springs, and also maybe had bunds over various streams here, just to give you a glimpse of this work. You can see fire line, you can see like live hedge, some kind of stone work, and again, before after. So you can see the grass diversity is increasing, shrubs are increasing. There are few patches which already have, we're having tree cover, they are improving surely. So obviously we have installed the camera traps, and these are our guests, along leopard and barking deer and mouse deer, many, mammal species are there. We also actually announce volunteering programs at Rahal and try and involve urban citizens in this. We conduct eco workshops for various students here. And then the last is very small scale project, which is over, even if you have like just 7-8 acres, you can do, or you can restore forest in a certain way. So this is a farmhouse owned by Rakesh Mehra, and he obviously wanted to have forest only on his land. So if you see, the infrastructure is on very little area, but rest of the area, we just try to shape our land use wherein you are able to conserve soil and the biodiversity, the same story, so this is how it goes. So forest is there over all the slopes and restored quite well. All avenue of native and beautiful trees is done. Then we also have certain areas for productive forests, like species like Saroli. Saroli is like they, I'm sure तुम्हाला माहिती असेल, श्रीखंडात बासुंदीत घालतात ते, and quite valued kind of dry fruit. त्याची तिथे थोडीशी लागवड केली आहे. Then kitchen garden is there. Boundary plantation is done with bamboo. So just to have some kind of screen all along the boundary. And of course, conventional horticulture species are also planted like mango, and some fruit grow with all रानमेवा plant केलाय, करवंद आणि कोकम आणि भोकर असं सगळं. So this is what you can do on a very small scale. So in short, if at all you have any kind of land, right from 1,000 acres to few, just 4, 5, 7 acres, definitely you can have some kind of conservation and restoration on that land. Yeah. So thank you. So I think I'll take the questions. So this
Thanks,
is
Ketaki.
three. Anyone wish to guess who's this? Santosh ओळखू येतंय का? So that's Madan sir.
मी म्हणणारच
प्रकाश
होते
गोळे
महाजन सर आहेत
हो.
म्हणून. महाजन सर.
महाजन sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
thanks to him, we have learned
So,
very good lessons.
Jai,
So that
yeah.
time I remember this was from Lavasa, and there was one little herb, and he just looked at surrounding, and he said, "No, it's only one single herb, so we don't have any choice but to lie down and then watch it instead of plucking it." So, yeah, thanks to him,
Yeah.
thanks to people like him,
Yeah. So,
we have to shape.
Jaideep,
Thanks.
Sanjeev will take over the questions and Jaideep can appeal.
Take 2 minutes.
Sir.
So sorry, hold on a second. Sorry about that. So I have the pleasant task of getting between the interesting part and the most interesting part, which is where I get to ask you for money. And now, why do we need money? I want to sensitize. There's roughly about 65 new people today. This is this makes my job easier because I want to sensitize that the others here, take Mansi, take Ketaki today. These are high caliber presenters and they are giving personal time. Many of the volunteers pay for lots of things that go unnoticed. Things like water testing, stream mapping, transport, software, representing ourselves to bureaucrats. Sometimes you have to take a trip to Bombay and that trip alone, taking an Innova costs a lot of money. So all of this is paid completely by volunteers, and we're falling short of volunteers who pay on a regular basis. So I want to say what I'm going to do today. I have a flat in Prabhat Road, and I'm going to put that up for on Airbnb, and anything that comes up from that will go towards PRR. Unfortunately, these kind of plans, they are very sporadic. What we need is a regular commitment from volunteers. So if any of you can come up with a regular payment plan, just say, give at least say 1,000 rupees per month, we can have a sustainable plan. Right here, we're talking about sustainability of the planet. So at least the least we can do is financially make Pune River Revival survival. And there's other people giving lots of things. Like we have Nitin Das joining today. He's made a wonderful video to raise awareness about the rivers. If you haven't seen the Gotala song, we'll recirculate that link. You must see that. And there's a lot of volunteer time. There's a lot of actual cost that went into making that video. So I want to urge all of you again to take a note of the contribution, the donation bank link that we're sharing. Unfortunately, we are a very lean organization. We don't have fancy infrastructure, admin. So all of the donations have to come through either an NEFT, RTGS, or we don't have a UPI payment. We're still working on that. So please bear with us. But the good news is once you add us as a payee, you can be a regular donor. It's a one click. So please do that today. And last point, Santosh, sorry, I know you're itching to, move on to the discussion. But I must say, the thing about donation is you hear these appeals, it sounds heartwarming, you learn a lot and you go back saying, hey, this is good, I should give. And then you forget, right? You have dinner after this, so you're going to forget. Please make a note of this to do this today. Add Jeevit Nadi as the payee and get done with the giving. That's the only way, if you build a habit of giving and giving today, that's going to help us. Okay. So I have a question for Ketaki, but I'm not going to jump the queue. So I'll put that up later. Thanks for giving me the time.
Thanks, Jaideep, for the appeal. Sanjeev, can you take over for the question answers?
Yeah. Thanks, Ketaki, for that, very mesmerizing whatever presentation which you people. I think the work which you have done will be even more better than the presentation. So somewhere I always feel no, all this should be shown on the ground. We should see this, and that will actually make the thing really. What is it? People will know what is the type of work. Presentation doesn't do full justice. So in spite of that, I think it's great. So Priyadarshini Karve has a very apt question, and especially very up because we are all staying in cities. These all look good. We have to go somewhere in the wild to see all this wonderful work. But what are the examples for such type of sustainable urban ecosystem development, some sort of mixed development? Are there any examples of that anywhere in the world from where we can learn lessons to see if we can tune the course of current urbanization where we are fixed on destroying whatever little natural systems are there.
Yeah, so that's a subject, completely different subject. Means we'll have to have another webinar for it. Today's topic was basically what you can do in the catchment. So I think
Just a quick example, probably, maybe, so that we can then build up on that. Yeah, maybe just
yeah,
examples, and then
take
we
it up for some other webinar probably.
Yeah, no, let me just jump in here. I put that question because you were talking about Lavasa and saying that those buildings are eyesores. But are there any examples where the buildings are not eyesores and there is a mixed development? That's something which came in my mind. So if you can think of anything off the hand, just mention it. Otherwise, yes, it is also a suggestion for a new webinar topic.
No, it doesn't come to my mind immediately. Because the moment there is urban infrastructure, whatever areas that we've seen, most of the time it is an eyesore. Because, yeah, I don't think so. And then many times it could be one little hill station, which is spread over little area. But the moment you talk about township or cities, I think the density itself is always so much that it's very difficult to keep it maybe camouflaged. But I'm not sure really if in the world there is any.
So, Ketaki, maybe I don't know whether recently we had gone to this Nanded city where they seem to have done a decently good sort of ecosystem mix development. Again, I cannot say it is perfect, but yeah, they have sort of retained some sort of old trees and even the water streams and all that. So it looks maybe a decent example. Maybe for Pune, maybe that's the best. I haven't seen a lot, but that's
question is more for infrastructure, right? Where it could be, if at all it is camouflaging and decently done, then we can say it's a good project. But Nanded city, I don't think so that the buildings are usual. Means surely means because Varshatai has done a wonderful job when it comes to plantation and all natives are there and so even within the city, there is a limitation to attract biodiversity, surely, if it is the density of infrastructure is too high. Like within Pune city, you see pockets like Empress Garden or Pune University, where you see good species. Next to that, there could be big housing societies, which has good greenery retained. Like say, for example, Navasayadri, because the roads are smaller and canopies mixed. Over there also you see certain specialist species. But when it comes to infrastructure, it's usual. So that's the case even in Nanded city. In Nanded city, surely plantations are good. Everything is native. They're trying to shape gardens very well. But not sure about infrastructure.
So Tarun has a question: can this be done on a smaller scale, 3 to 4 k square, 3 to 4,000 square meters?
Basically less than maybe around an acre. But also I realized that this was more about lands which fall in river catchment areas, but also areas which are not necessarily in catchment areas but are still on mountain slopes. But like for example, we hear a lot about the extensive forestation through Miyawaki forest and stuff, but something which is more suited to the local context. I'm talking from Himalayas.
Yeah, so that can also be done. Means we also have projects over 1 acre. So in that surely, and mostly those are farmhouse projects. So we suggest that wherever your bungalow is, just immediate surrounding, you can have maybe little garden which is useful, and rest of the area can have plantation, again tree plantation. Many of our projects have that actually, in which we plant native species, mix again trees, shrubs, climbers, everything, try and create habitat. Even within 1 acre, it is possible. So ultimately, what we need to do in catchment is protect the slopes so that you stop soil erosion, and don't means your project should not be the source of pollution for the river system. So that definitely can be assured, be it an acre or be it thousands of acres. If you have a very right kind of planting plan, so be it an acre or 1,000 acres, how you shape the zoning of that land is very crucial. And if you have maximum cover types, means some kind of vegetation is there, be it grass, shrubs or trees, it definitely would protect the slope and also attract the biodiversity. So,
But the
yeah.
first step, would be to do some kind of a biodiversity mapping, which would require, like, if we are not from this field, if we like if this is not our expertise, then how does one, like, what would be the first step to even
Yeah, so
so
first
that,
step is definitely ecological mapping. So like you do ecological assessment through the year, try and understand what kind of species are growing. So like one of the project that right now we're doing in Dehradun has
okay,
again, because just at the foothills of Himalaya.
okay,
Again, the same thing actually. Do assessment, do those zoning, have some kind of master plan. And because it is 1 acre, you can create micro habitats. But yeah, so the same sensitivity goes into shaping the smaller scale project, which goes into like large scale project. And the philosophy also just the same, you know,
okay.
very,
No,
yeah.
thanks so much. Thanks for highlighting that. Yeah.
So the next question is from Veena Patil. I'm not sure whether it is directly related, but you can take a call. So you saying lots of plus and minuses regarding seed balls. So what is your suggestion?
Yeah, so seed balls, so in case of Lavasa, whatever green slopes that you see, that time we had done seed balls, but every time we never did seed balls. We just used to collect the seeds and, just disperse it over the slope. So it's not necessary every time. But again, another thing very crucial, that when we just throw the seed balls or even seeds, the land should not be completely barren. And it should have some kind of structure or some kind of anchoring place to hold that seed, otherwise what happens if it's too barren land and if the soil is maybe highly heated or something, then the seedling म्हणजे the bee मधली ताकद असते तोवरच ते जगतं, and that later on the seedling dies. So that should not happen. So for that we suggest that it should be thrown in some kind of clusterous vegetation. And again, needless to say, I think that native species, I mean, you should not throw everywhere. I don't know, definitely apple and I don't know, oranges and limes and lemons, that's not suggested at all. You should definitely look at the native plant palette. And on our website, we have kept all these lists. So you can just use that guideline. And use that list as well.
Next question is from Shailaja Tai, and she has two questions, so I'll combine them. So she's asked, how do we look at urban rivers and developing a riparian zone along the banks, and what would be the minimum width required for creating, riparian vegetation, especially on urban rivers?
Yeah, so urban rivers, if you see the riparian zone, right now in the riparian zone there is a development. Yeah, and wherever there are chances that you can have riparian zone, but it is because now they let because this entire hydrology or the, what you can say, water dynamics which is into the river is governed by the dam. So whenever they let the water be into the river, so there is hardly anything which is left where we can have a riparian zone or banks basically. So you need to have riparian zone along the banks which are open. But right now it's everywhere, it's urban sprawl. But at the most, whatever banks are there, which are like even along Mula somewhere, definitely you see some banks which are eroded. So over there, I think we can have plantations of right species.
So can I go to the next question, or you have something more?
No, so my answer is definitely can be done, but
But it is dependent on.
cannot be continuous in case of urban area.
Priyadarshini had a question, but I don't know whether again you want to answer it, because again it's related to the same thing, other examples from permaculture groups to see how modern living and natural ecosystems can exist. And yeah, she said it's definitely a topic for another webinar.
Yeah.
We'll work in
But
that.
can be done. Means definitely there are good examples when it comes to combining permaculture. So you means it's well
I
established.
have a question. Sanjeev, can I ask one question? I had put it here already. I'm Charuta.
Yes, I
Charuta, yeah, your question is next. So yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, so nowadays around metro cities or cities, all the farmlands are sold for plotting and replotting, and people are converting them into farmhouses. And if we go to any of the forts and see around, that's a very bad picture that we can see that lot of compounds have been put and a lot of such work is happening and the greenery is lost totally. So can we just buy one plot from this gated community and convert that into a farm? Sorry, convert that into a forest? Because you had told once that if there is a compound, then that doesn't act as a corridor for the animals and the fauna if they want to use it. But the gated community, one good thing is that nobody will come and burn our forest or play into that area, or play pranks in that area and disturb that area. So will it work if few people start behaving in that way?
Yeah, so that can be done, and these practices can be maybe tweaked a bit, and you can have, say, wildlife friendly compounds. You can have live hedges, you can have dry fences of thorns, which are wildlife friendly. Means that doesn't deter wildlife completely. So it could be a combination. Means surely plot development, because means there is a huge market for this kind of businesses. So now even local people are maybe finding urban partners and developing such kind of farmhouse schemes. So yeah, so we have done like definitely many more. Many of our projects are for basically such kind of schemes. So we have evolved plantation plans for them, in which surely we say, and many of them have agreed to that and have not built surely walls or not even barbed wire fences, but just not chain link fences, but at the most barbed wire fences, which are that they deter cattle and human beings, but maybe wildlife can just easily
Come inside.
come inside or basically can commute. So yeah, that is possible. And actually, because there was a time limitation, otherwise I could have shown you all such kind of examples, because we've worked on all 170 projects till now. So many of those are already farmhouse development schemes.
Okay.
And yeah, so and many times you don't need also, I mean, internal hedges, so you don't need. If at all it's complete one gate community is there. And if you have good established, so we many times recommend good green belt. When one of the project that we have spread over 250 acres, so over there in Kamshet area, so over there we have designed hedge which is absolutely like an eco-climb, that we call it as an ecology, like bamboo, then trees, then small trees, then shrubs, grasses, so some such kind of is there. So which is a good protection even against fire and wildlife friendly. And again, basically humans also get deterred because of some such kind of wide patch which are full of thorny plants. Yeah. So can be done, and it is done. So definitely people are
Thank you.
happy about.
Thanks, Ketaki. Thank you.
So I'll just I'll just take the last two questions because we are also running out of time. So one is from Radhika, who has asked, how do we stabilize banks of streams in catchment areas?
How do we
stabilize the bank of streams in catchment areas?
The same, no, bank of streams in catchment area is, if you see in catchment area, there is no many times clear cut riparian zone which is different than a slope forest. So forest on the slope almost is a part of riparian zone. So the moment you protect the slope and have forest, it is already protecting the streams. Like we did in case of Lavasa. So we like requested those master planners to show the riparian zone and not touch it. Means, so and just because of that, even right now, if you go in that area, so last month we went, So now the riparian zone is at least still intact, though it gets fragmented because of their roads, but overall it is protected and it is a part of slope. I mean, the simple answer is yes. If you protect the slopes on the forest, the stream riparian zone gets protected.
The last question is from Deepak. He's saying he would like to reduce his carbon footprint. He has a few acres of land and wants to do tree plantation. So is it doable in less time? Deepak, your definition of less time, what is less time? Few hours, few months, few years, you have to define that. Yeah.
So plantation means like can be done, but it will take time to grow. Its own time.
Yeah, especially if it is to be done the right way with the right.
Yeah, right way. And again, I request you to see, we have kept the plantation guideline on our website.
Correct.
And you can refer to that guideline. So it gives you some kind of idea that if at all land is barren, how you restore that and then do plantation instead of, directly jumping to plantation.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other factors also of water and all that. So
Yeah, many things are there because it's not only plantation. You have to also look at other resources and protection, irrigation facility. Once that is done, then only we say that you should do plantation.
and you can reduce your carbon footprint even without doing plantation. So look
Yeah.
at other
That's
aspects.
so there. So again, I can talk for another hour that how you can skip plantation and still do
Yeah.
conservation work.
So Amit has shared the oikos
Thank you, Amit.
plantation
for
guidelines,
sharing the
in
guidelines.
both Marathi English. So go to that site; they have very good resources, and you can also contact them in their office. They are very busy people, so you don't expect overnight answers. But whenever you get the answer, you'll get the right answer. Be patient.
Pankaj is asking.
Thank you.
Pankaj wants to ask something.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Ketaki. So, this could be a little unrelated because nowadays we are seeing a lot of forest fires, especially in Himalayas. So, what do you suggest? I mean, what should we, because now it's becoming a regular feature.
So
And
it has been a regular thing. And if you look at the last century, I don't know from where, since when people have been burning the land. So it's basically for fodder, no? Everywhere, be it Himalaya, be it Western Ghats, people burn the areas or it's basically grassland that they keep on burning so that they grow the same grasses every year. Because if at all you stop fire, it goes towards forest formation. And that's what people don't want because they want fodder. And that's fine. I mean, on certain areas, they can keep on doing that. But in that, what happens, because they keep on doing the same thing on the same patch, you keep on losing the soil and ultimately it keeps on getting poorer and poorer. So again, so there are certain methods like grassland conservation and restoration comes in picture. If at all you wish to tell locals not to, put fire, then you need to give them some kind of alternatives for their fodder, and that can be done. So that's why that's completely different. I don't know, strategy and restoration project. If at all you are talking about grassland not to be burned. In the moment the land is not owned by you, you can't do that. So that's why whatever project that I portrayed was almost like a single ownership. And there was not a multiple ownership. So normally fire problem is there wherever there is a multiple ownership by locals and who have cattle. And they need to feed their cattle. And who are not managing their grassland the way they should be managing. So management is also lacking. And they just continue the same traditional old technique of burning that. So over there, what can be done? Yeah, have maybe series of meetings with locals, try and convince them that why they should not burn, or if at all they burn, means how the rotational grazing, rotational fire has to be there, so that they have fodder at the same time. Means fodder which is a superior quality fodder. I mean, they can harvest instead of inferior quality fodder. Because means we keep on discussing in the class as well, ecological society class, that in grasslands, I keep on repeating that same thing, that if you basically let the grassland just grow naturally, means if you don't graze it or don't let it graze or don't put fire into that, superior species come naturally, they grow naturally. And many times locals, even if they know it, they don't practice it. I don't know why. So if you like Lamkani case study is there from Dhule district. So the way they protected their grassland and they let the Paunia marvel species come up there. And so if there is an inferior quality grass, if you need a good quantity of inferior quality grass, you need very small quantity of superior quality grass. That's why these locals only tell us. So if we should shift to that kind of thing, then only you can convince locals not to put fire.
Sure. But what about places where it's happening because of some natural reasons, like in Himalayas? Pine trees, leaves falling, heat
Yeah,
rising.
so again, because we've been talking to even in Chakrata, where we go every year. So if you talk to locals, they say that अपने आप नहीं लगती आग, कोई तो लगा देता है, and just because of pine, which is resinous plant, it spreads. But it's not natural fires in Himalaya. That's what they say.
But
कोई
there's
तो
no way
लगाते हैं.
to make it, because it's now, this is becoming a regular feature and it's
So
hurting.
again, means if you have diverse forest in Himalaya, so wherever there is a pine monoculture, you see the areas getting affected little too much. But if you have diversity of oaks with pines and devdars and firs, everything is together, then fire doesn't affect that patch. But because of
I
pine,
think now, Ketki,
yeah.
just to interrupt you, with the restriction of time, I think now we need to stop. And
Thank you.
I invite Jaideep for the vote of thanks.
Hey, thanks, Santosh. I want to conclude. I'll keep it very crisp, but I want to share one good news that happened through this donation appeal that I made. I know it's not because of my chatterbox, but Ketki delivered a fantastic lecture. So Charuta has come forward to be a sustaining supporter. So a big round of applause to Ketki and to Charuta. I want to encourage everyone else to come forward just as Charuta did today. So let's do it today. Let's close that today itself. Ketki, thanks for the wonderful session. I've been binge watching YouTube videos about rewilding with the intent that maybe I'll go build a food forest in there. So I'll pick your brains about that. And I think Priyatai has encouraged to carry forward maybe with a separate session. So maybe we'll have you back for that.
Sure, anytime.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
See you back on Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, thanks, Charuta, for letting me share that. Bye-bye. See you, Ketki.
Yes, see you.
Bye.
We'll meet soon.
Yes, sounds great. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks.